Happy Tuesday, friends, and welcome to the Get Started Live Q&A. My name is Ernie. I'm one of the teachers around here at YNAB, and I'm joining you from Eau Claire, Wisconsin in the United States. Now, before we get started, why don't you type on over where you're joining from? Always fun to see where others are checking in from. Plus, seeing your responses come through, I'll know you fine folks can hear me all right. We have a bunch of folks checking in on Zoom, and then we also have some folks checking over on YouTube Live. All right, so we have Debbie from Fort Morgan, Colorado. Welcome, Debbie. Good to have you here. And I got your question there that just came through as well. We'll get to that at the end and any other questions that you have. If I can't get to them right then and there during the demo that I have here, I will get to them at the end. We'll have a lot of time available for questions. We have Shannon from Ohio. Hi, Shannon. Good to have you here. And for those of you just coming through the door, you haven't missed anything yet. Just doing introductions. My name is Ernie, joining you from Eau Claire, Wisconsin in the United States. And if you want, you can type on over where you're joining from. All right, we have Claire from New Zealand. Yes, Claire, the chat is disabled, but you can type over any questions in the Q&A window. All right, over on Facebook, whole bunch of people there. We got Shana, Roger, Jez, Fernando from Brazil, Carrie, Dana's checking in from South Carolina. Yeah, YouTube, we got a good crowd over there, so I'm not quite able to call out everyone's name. We have Dan from Portland, Teresa from Utah. Keith, you got me. Keith says, go Packers. Must know that I'm a Vikings fan. Last week was tough. We have Tommy from Rochester. Hi, Tommy. All right. Excellent. Well, it looks like everything is working in both Zoom and on YouTube Live. Perfect. I'm going to turn this camera off. We're going to get started right away because I have a lot of great content that I want to share with you. And then I want to make sure that there's a good amount of time at the end for you to ask any questions that you may have. All right. Now, before I get into the nuts and bolts of setting up that very first budget, I want to start with the 4 rules of the YNAB method, because these 4 rules are going to be your framework for managing your money. So let's go through them one by one. Rule 1, give every dollar a job. With this rule, you're deciding what to do with your money before you spend it. So right away in YNAB, it's going to be you looking at the amount of money sitting in your bank account right now. Give jobs to those dollars. And then from there, it's giving a job to every new dollar that comes into your life. So when you're paid. And as soon as you give jobs to your dollars, to your money, you're instantly going to have clarity. You're going to know exactly what every single dollar needs to do for you. Rule 2, embrace your true expenses. With rule 2, you're thinking ahead and acting now. So you're going to be thinking ahead about all those expenses that don't happen every single month. Things like auto repairs or the car insurance premium that's due in 6 months. And you're going to be acting now by setting something aside for them every single month. That way, when those expenses actually happen, you're going to be ready. You're going to have a pile of cash just sitting ready to be put towards that bill. Rule 3, roll with the punches. This is the rule for when things don't go according to plan. And for those folks that have tried a budget before, or you've tried a spending plan, you know they do not go according to plan. And generally it's within the first week, right? No problem. With rule 3, you can change your budget, your plan at any time for any reason. So it gives you the ultimate flexibility. And then finally, there's rule 4, age your money. With this rule, you're going to be building yourself a buffer. Right? You're going to be giving yourself some breathing room outside of your regular monthly bills and those true expenses. And a great way to get a great way to do that, to give yourself the breathing room, is to get a month ahead. When I'm talking about getting a month ahead, I'm talking about living off of money that you've earned in a previous month. And so imagine all of the money you're spending here in January, that's money that you earned last month in December. So then as those January paychecks start coming in, well, you don't need that money right now, right? Because you're spending last month's money. So instead you save that money because that's the money you're going to be then spending in February or maybe even March. And when you are that month ahead, you're going to have so much more flexibility and stability with your money. All right. Those are the rules. And in this session, we're going to be focusing on rules 1 and 2. So here's the budget. Now, big picture, you have your accounts on the left. The accounts are telling you exactly how much money you currently have. And then on the right are your categories. Those categories represent your life, right? All of your bills, the things you're saving for, the things that you love spending money on. And the idea with YNAB is you take your money and you allocate it to your priorities. Now, before you can start doing that, you need to make a plan for the things that your dollars have to do. So the way I'm going to make that plan is I'm going to customize my categories, right? I want to see my life in these categories. And then with each category, I'm going to add a target. Targets are how we tell a category, here's how much money I need, and here's when I need that money by. So let me walk through some examples. And like I said, if you have any questions, type those on over. And if I can't get to them right then and there, I'll get to them at the very end. All right, let's start right up here top, rent and mortgage. Pretty common monthly expense for most folks. Now, I don't have both of these, so I'm going to edit the category. I'm going to click here. I'm going to delete rent. I have a mortgage. There we go. Now that category is all customized. Let's throw in that target. There's 3 different types of targets you can use in YNAB. For pretty much all my bills, I'm using the needed for spending target. So in this case, how much is my mortgage? $1,200. That is a monthly bill for me. And I always pay my mortgage, or I should say it's due on the first of the month. So I save that target. Now I have a plan in place for my mortgage. I need $1,200 by the first, and that yellow alert, that's letting me know that my mortgage category still needs more money. Now, that's not really relevant right now today, Tuesday, January 3rd, because I already paid the mortgage in January. So I'm going to ignore that alert this month, but watch this. In February, now I'm in the next month, that target carries over. So as I start planning for next month, I know exactly what I need to do by February 1st, $1,200 into the February mortgage category. All right. Does anyone have any weekly expenses? Maybe it's childcare, coffee, parking. Well, for me, groceries is a weekly expense. So I'm going to use that needed for spending weekly option. How much do I want every week for groceries? I'll say $150. And I will add, it is okay to guess at how much you think you need for some of these expenses. You know, maybe this is your first spending plan. You're like, Ernie, I have no idea how much I spend on groceries every month or every week. No problem. Take your best guess, and you can always come back and edit these categories at any point. All right, last piece of information. When do I want that $150 by? I'm going to choose my shopping day, Saturday, save the target. Now look at this plan, $600 for the month. And how does YNAB get that? It takes that weekly amount, multiplies it by 1, 2, 3, 4 Saturdays in the month of January. And then, of course, that yellow alert to remind me to actually stuff some money in my groceries category before I do my shopping. All right, let's keep working our way down the list here. Non-monthly, that brings us to those Rule 2 true expenses. These are the ones that don't happen every single month. And this is where targets can be really, really helpful because it's oftentimes these non-monthlies that we forget about. And so that target, that's going to remind us every single month to stay on track. Let's say I want to plan for an annual car insurance premium. And to create that new category, I just hit that little plus button to the very right of that group. Now with the category in place, I'm going to create that target. I'm going needed for spending. I need $600 for that annual premium. And I'm going to choose the yearly option. Now, maybe you don't pay the insurance premium yearly. Maybe it's every 6 months, or you have the every 3-month water bill. You can use the custom option, select the next date you're paying the bill, and then you can have it repeat at whatever cadence you need. But like I said, in this case, it's yearly, and I'm paying that $600 in June 9th, actually. Save the target. Now watch what YNAB does with that large amount of money that I need in the future. It breaks it down into these monthly target amounts. So now, instead of getting anxiety over this large amount of money, I just have to worry about getting $100 in the category in January. And then those $100 will be available and they will roll over into the next month. And so as I assign 100 every single month, I'm going to watch this category balance grow. It's kind of fun. These categories basically become these mini savings accounts for you. Now, you can also use these targets to help you save money. Let me walk through a couple of examples there. Auto maintenance. Oh, this is a good one. The tricky part with auto maintenance, though, is you really don't know when the next car repair is going to happen. And you don't know how much it's going to cost, right? It's pretty unpredictable. So when you're saving for those unpredictable type expenses, the monthly savings builder is a really good target to utilize. Because with that, you just have to decide on a fixed amount that you want to contribute, that you want to save every single month. And again, okay to just guess at those amounts. So there we go. Now we have a plan in place for auto. I want to put $100 into my auto maintenance category every month. And then any money that is not spent, it rolls over, right? So I'm going to watch that category balance grow month after month. Now, sometimes when you're saving, you do know how much you want, and maybe even know when you want to buy. I want to save $1,000 for an emergency fund 12 months from now. Or I want to save $50,000 for a down payment on a house. Let's say I want to save $15,000 for a new roof. So in my home improvement category, I'm going to be using that savings balance target type. I would like to save $15,000, and I would like that $15,000 by May of 2027. Save the target. And just like we saw with the car insurance category, YNAB takes that large amount that we need in the future and just breaks it down into those monthly target amount. So again, I'm not looking at this intimidating number. I'm just focusing on hitting that target amount. And the nice thing too, maybe I don't hit that target amount, or maybe I'm able to contribute more than $283.02. In the next month, YNAB will auto adjust that monthly target for me. So let's say I assigned $0 to it in January. Looks like in February, it goes up $6 just to keep me on track to gain that $15,000 by May. All right, friends, let me pause real quick. Any questions up to this point about customizing your categories and using those targets to tell the category, here's how much I need, and here's when I need that money by? Good point there, Debbie. Over on Zoom, Debbie says, so the idea is to stop watching my daily balance on Wells Fargo because it will be large, hopefully, and YNAB is going to show me where those dollars should go. You nailed it. Right on the head right there. The category balances is what matters most, right? So when you go to spend and you're spending on auto maintenance, how much do I have in my auto maintenance category? All right. No need to look at those category balances. And Debbie, once we actually start stuffing money into these categories, this will become a lot more apparent. What if we have multiple due dates for money? So estimated tax payments. Felicia, you could do a needed for spending, and you could set it for every 3 months, right? So maybe something like taxes here. Taxes, needed for spending. You can take a guess at what that amount is that you need. I'm going to use custom, and I'm going to pay the next set of taxes on March 1st, and I want that to repeat every 3 months. Right. So now January, February, March, I'm going to be focusing on getting that 2,000. And then that's going to reset on, what is that, April 1st, and help me prepare for those next 3 months. Yes, Carrie, you can do this. The question is, can you just do this on the web app? Can you also do this in the mobile app? You can. I'll hop over there quick. All right, here's the mobile app. And actually in the mobile app, it's really slick because in the web app, I was going category by category, right? I was making those edits. I was adding the target. But right up here in the mobile app, that's edit mode. Tap that. And now it's like a one-stop shop of my plan. I have all my categories right here, and I can add groups right up top. Or actually, that's adding categories. I'm sorry. That's adding categories. Right here, you can add the groups. You can edit those names. And then this is where you're going to be editing those target amounts as well. Excellent. All right, let me hop back over here. All right, I'm going to show you the finished product, and then I'll make sure to get to any questions that I didn't get to at the very end here. Now, your budget doesn't have to look like this, but it might give you some ideas. So a few things I want to point out. First off, in the bills section, notice how these bills are arranged by due date. I just clicked and drug those categories anywhere I wanted. And then if you ever do something you regret in the budget, no problem. You've got that undo button there at the very top. And the reason it might be nice to arrange those bills by due date is as the money's coming in, you know exactly what that money needs to do next, right? It helps you prioritize your money. In the frequent group, I always like pointing out the my spending money and your spending money category, especially if you are doing this budgeting thing with another person, maybe your partner. Really good idea for you both to have some sort of fun money category like this, where you decide together how much you each get every month. And then you are both free to spend that money however you want, guilt-free, no questions asked. And then in the non-monthly section, the last thing I want to highlight is stuff I forgot to budget for. That first time around, maybe the first 6 or 9 months of YNAB, there's probably going to be a true expense or two that you completely forget about. I remember my first year of YNAB, I completely forgot about vehicle registration. And so I was really glad to have money in some sort of category like this that I could then use to cover that forgotten expense. All right, friends, after a little bit of work, I now have a master list of all my bills, the things I'm saving for, and the things that I love spending money on. And with those targets, I know exactly how much I need, when I need that money by, and I even know if I have enough. At this point, I can do a quick reality check on this plan. And the way I'm going to do that is by looking at this underfunded number on the right. That underfunded number is telling me how much money it's going to take to fund everything in January. So it is adding up all of these monthly target amounts and telling me I would need just a little bit under $4,300 to budget for everything. And so let's say my expected income is right around $4,500. Well, then I would know this plan is pretty realistic, right? If, I should be able to assign money to all my priorities. But if my underfunded number was way higher than my expected income, then I would know probably not going to be able to get to everything this month. So maybe I edit some of these monthly target amounts, dial them back just a little bit. All right, friends, the plan is in place. Now the real fun begins. Now we're going to take a look at the money that's sitting in our accounts and start allocating those dollars to the plan. So I've already added my checking account. Now there's 2 ways you can add your checking. You can link YNAB directly to your bank, and then YNAB will add the account and download that cleared balance as of today. This is an unlinked account. So if this was my actual budget, I would log into my bank, get that cleared balance, and enter that myself. Once YNAB has the balance of the account, it's going to feed that amount into the budget. So I have $2,140 in my checking account. I have $2,140 in ready to assign. This is kicking off rule 1. I want to give a job to every single one of these dollars. And so I'm going to start right at the top. I'm going to work my way down this list until my ready to assign is all the way down to 0. At that point, I have then given a job to every dollar. All right, so mortgage, first priority. I need $1,200 by January 1st. Well, that already happened, right? That was a couple of days ago. So there's no need for me to take money that I have right now and put it towards that past expense, right? So I'm going to skip that in January, but that brings me to the internet. I need $75 to pay the bill on January 7th. So I'm going to take $75 from that pile of money, and I'm going to assign it to my internet category. So I'm 75 less here, and I'm 75 more here. And notice how that yellow alert has even disappeared. It's like I've got that green light now to pay my internet bill at any point in time. All right, let's keep going here and let's speed this up. This is the other reason I really like using targets. I can select multiple categories, and notice how the underfunded button is now telling me those 4 categories require $800. All right, I've got over 2,000, so I can cover those. One click, YNAB assigns the money and I'm good to go, right? So using those targets can really help speed up that assigning process. All right, let's keep going. I've got $12.65 left over, so I'm going to give myself some money for groceries, and I'm just going to do half of these target amounts. Right? I want to make sure I cover all my priorities because I'm not getting paid again for a couple weeks. 75. These are important, so I'm giving myself the full 75, giving my wife Christy the full 75. Now, notice with these three, I assigned money, and I'm definitely, that money's available. I can spend that money. But the category is still yellow. I didn't do anything wrong. The yellow is just a reminder that I still need to add a little bit more money to these categories to get me to that target amount. So maybe with the next paycheck, or actually looking at what I have left over and ready to assign, I could top off my frequent spending categories, have all my bills covered with the money that I have right now. So I think I'm going to do that. Hit that underfunded button. There we go. That feels pretty good. All the bills are covered. Frequent spending is covered. I've got 165 left. So I'm just going to prioritize this across these categories. I'll put 100 here. Maybe I'll put 40 in auto maintenance. And again, I'm really just kind of guessing as to what I need this money for at this point in time. With rule 3, roll with the punches. Remember, I can change these amounts. I can move money throughout the budget at any point for any reason. Oh, I need that other $5. Let's throw that in home maintenance. There we go. Now you can see I wasn't able to assign money to everything, but that's going to be the purpose of the next paycheck that I'm getting in a couple weeks. But for right now, I have a spending plan in place, right? My ready to assign is 0. That means every one of those dollars that I'm staring at in my bank account, it has a job in the budget. I know what every dollar needs to do for me. So moving forward, I can start relying on these category balances, right? I go to the grocery store. How much money do I have to spend on groceries? $600, right? I'm not looking at that checking account balance and doing the mental math and trying to guess. I go eating out. All right, I go eating out. That's a good sentence. I have $200 available for eating out, right? So I have clarity around what all my money needs to do. All right, friends, that is my demonstration on setting up the budget. So let me turn on the camera. I'll turn this over to you. What other questions you have about setting up your budget? I'm going to keep an eye on both Zoom and YouTube Live. And if things start going fast and furious over on YouTube Live, I'll make sure Maria answers some of those questions and that she sends some of those over that I can answer live myself. But we have a good chunk of time, should be able to get through quite a bit here. All right, so let me start with Debbie. Do credit card transactions take a while to post? I don't see any for me to reconcile. I'm using my credit card regularly while trying to pay off a balance on it as well. Just joined YNAB today. Yes, Debbie, there is a delay, not only for credit cards, but for all linked transactions. So direct import, it's very convenient, but it's not instantaneous. And so if you want, you can actually add that spending yourself. You know, maybe if you bought something and you want to have it represented in the budget, add it yourself. And then once the imported version comes through, it's going to match right up with that transaction you entered yourself. So you won't have to worry about any duplicates there. Hi, Sue. Got your question here. How do I use the 2022 budget info to create a 2023 budget? So you could keep the same budget, Susan, right? You don't have to change anything. But what you could do is you could go category by category and you could look at the average spent number right there. That's going to tell you the average amount of money that you've been spending in that category over the past 12 months. So in this case, over the past year. And so you can look at what you've been spending over in 2022 in groceries, and you can make changes to your plan for 2023. Christopher says over on YouTube, can you go through adding a credit card and loan to the budget? Yeah, I'll tackle adding that credit card right now. You can link, you can unlink. Personal preference here. Let's say I have a Visa. I'm going to choose that credit card account type. And since this is an unlinked account, I need to log into Visa and see what I owe them today. I'll keep the number simple for myself. So I have $100. That's how much I owe Visa. Now I have a decision to make about that balance that I'm bringing into YNAB, because YNAB knows nothing about what I spent that $100 on. So my options are, I'm going to pay it in full this month, or I'm going to pay it off over time. And YNAB will then create a target to remind you to keep you on track with that goal. In this case, I want to be able to pay that $100 off this month. So I'm going to choose the cover my entire balance option. There we go. The account gets created. And then right away in the budget, YNAB is automatically going to create a payment category for me. This payment category is where I'm going to manage all of my future payments to Visa. Now notice that payment number, it does not match the balance on my Visa. And that's because those numbers represent different things. The account balance, that's the total amount that I owe. The payment number represents the amount of cash that I have currently allocated to a future payment, right? So what it's telling me right now, of all the money in my checking account, $2,140, 0 of those dollars are reserved for that future payment. So what I'm going to do with that next paycheck, I'm going to allocate $100 directly here. Hope that helps, Christopher, and anyone else that is using credit cards currently in YNAB. All right, if you are saving and your checking account is growing, do you keep it in the checking account or transfer into savings or stocks? That's a great thing. YNAB doesn't really care, the software I'm saying, where you keep your money, right? You could keep it all in checking, right? Maybe you want that simplified account structure because the categories, again, they don't care where the money is coming from, right? They're just telling you, hey, here you have a pile of money. Here's the job of all those dollars. Is there a place where you can add expected income? So with YNAB, you're only going to be allocating dollars that you have right now. And so you're not going to enter that expected income. Let me back up. You're only going to enter income once you actually receive it, Diana. So let's say today my wife got paid. I'm going to enter that income. And for those of you that have a linked account, those imported paychecks are going to contain the same information that I'm entering myself. And you can always edit that information if needed. All right, so payee, that's going to be the name of my employer or the source of your income. So I'm going to say employer here. I'm always going to categorize income as ready to assign and enter it as an inflow. So save. Now on the account side, my account balance grows, right? I have a new $1,800 in my account. And on the budget, I have a new $1,800 in ready to assign. So it's kicking off rule 1 all over again. I need to give a job to that new money that just landed in my checking account. So what are my priorities? Well, I need to set aside $100 for that Visa payment coming up. There we go. So now I owe Visa $100 and I have $100 allocated to pay it off. Perfect. All right, what else we got here? Let me top off my non-monthlies. So those 9 categories require 420, underfunded. Boom, done. I have 1280 left. Let's top off goals. Let's top off quality of life. Same thing, underfunded. Okay. So I have $796.98 left. Now I'm looking over my category balances here, everything that I've set money aside, and I feel pretty good about the January budget, but I still have this chunk of money left over. This is rule 4. I'm going to age those dollars by flipping over to February and assigning jobs to the money there. Now, a couple things to notice about the February budget. First, any money that is not spent in the previous month, that's going to carry over and be available for you to spend or move around in that current month. And then the assigned column, that has completely reset because again, with YNAB, you're only allocating the dollars that you have right now. So in the new month, you get that fresh start in the assigned column. And then as that money becomes available, then you can allocate it. All right. So what does that money need to do in February? Well, my first priority, it's the $1,200 mortgage that I pay on the first. So $796.98. And there we go. And the category is yellow because I still need to add another $403.02. And then notice this too, back in January, Notice how that money that I just assigned to the mortgage category in February, it's not even available to me here in January, right? So that future budget is basically protecting those dollars for me. Breezy Bree brought up a good point here. Diana, you can add your income ahead of time as pending transactions, but it won't allow you to assign it because you don't actually have it yet. Right. So if you maybe get the same amount of money or close to the same amount at the same time, every 2 weeks, turn that paycheck into a recurring transaction. So let's say my wife gets paid $1,800 every 2 weeks. So that was just paid on, January 3rd. I want that repeating every other week. There we go. So right here, it's all queued up and ready to go in the scheduled transactions. So on January 17th, that will fire. But right now, that money's not available for me to budget. Thank you, Breezy Bree. So let's say your grocery budget is $300 a week, but you spend $350. How do you keep track of the difference? Great question, Shannon. YNAB is going to help you keep track of that difference. So let's do this. Let's see. Where can I overspend? Let me overspend in my spending money category. Maybe I buy a brand new lawn tool off Amazon. Right, something I've been looking at for a while. So my spending money, $85. This is what my category is going to look like. It's going to be negative and it's going to be red, right? This is representing an underfunded category. So more money came out than what was available. I assigned 75. I spent 85. This is rule 3 in action now. I'm going to roll with the punches and I'm going to change my budget. I'm going to take $10 out of a category and I'm going to put it in my spending money category because I want to make sure I cover that overspent amount, because doing that, that's just going to keep me balanced, right? All right. So let's see, where can I make some adjustments here? Maybe I take $10 out of entertainment. And anytime you're moving money around, the goal is to find money in categories that really isn't super important, right? You wouldn't want to take money from a bill that's coming out tomorrow or, high priority categories. So entertainment, pretty low priority for my wife and I. I'm going to move $10 and I'm going to move that to my spending money category. And there we go. Where is it? Right there. So now I've assigned an extra 10. I'm up to 85 and I got that category balance right back down to 0. Tyrell, yes, your paycheck will show up on a linked account. Keep in mind, direct import is not instantaneous. So there might be a little bit of a delay, right? So if you log in Friday morning, you're ready to assign jobs to that first paycheck in YNAB, but it's not showing up, add it yourself. And then the imported version, once it comes through, it will match up with the transaction, the paycheck that you entered yourself. So you don't have to worry about any duplicates there. Oh, how do you track exactly what you spent in a given month? All right. So right now we're just allocating the funds. I'm glad you brought this up, Sweta. So the key is you want to track your spending. So if you've linked your accounts, all those transactions, that new spending, it will import. YNAB will bring those transactions in from your bank, and then you need to categorize the transactions. You need to tell each transaction, here's where you're going to pull the money from in my spending plan. And that's going to keep everything then updated. Or you can add that spending yourself. So let's say I go grocery shopping. So payee, that is going to be the name of the store that the place that I gave the money to. I'm just going to say grocery store. Category, where am I pulling that spending from in the budget, in my spending plan? Groceries. And then how much did I spend? $225. So now I have $225 less dollars in my checking account. And then on the budget side of things, there's the $600 I put in to the category. There's the $225 I just spent. That's showing up in activity. And if I click on activity, I can see the details of that spending. And then moving forward, I have $375 left to spend on groceries, right? So adding your new transactions, importing your new transactions is very, very important because it's going to keep these category balances updated, right? So anytime you spend, you add that spending, and then you know exactly where you stand with all of the money in your bank account. What's the difference between assigned and available? So assigned, that's you putting money into the category. So envision an actual envelope, right? On the outside of the envelope, you write groceries, and then you put $600 actual dollars into that envelope. So you're just stuffing 600 into a digital envelope. You spend, you take the money out, and then available is when you look back into the envelope to see what you have left over after you spent that money. Good question, Ann. Yes, Drew, we are recording this session and it will be available. And it'll be available for the YouTube folks, it'll be available on our YouTube channel. And then for those folks in Zoom, I put a link in the chat window. Just give Zoom probably 10, 15 minutes after we're done here, and then this will all get uploaded and you can use that link. When I link to my current credit union checking, will the balance there be assigned? The balance, YNAB will import that balance that you currently have, Mallory, in your credit union, and then it will feed that balance into ready to assign. Yep, and from there you allocate those dollars. You give jobs to all that money sitting in your credit union right now. All right, to set up a new budget, is there a way to transfer over the categories and accounts, or do I have to set them all up over again? What I would do, since you're setting up a brand new budget, Susan, make a fresh start. Go back to the original budget, click on the name, and then right down here, make a fresh start. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to save a copy of the old budget, right? We're not going to delete that. So you'll always be able to go back to that if you want. And then with that fresh start budget, it's going to copy over all of your accounts. It's going to copy over all your categories, all of your targets. The only thing that will be deleted will be the budgeting data and the budgeting or the transactions, right? So you're going to be able to start with fresh, accurate account balances, a pile of money, and then you can give jobs to those dollars in that very familiar new budget you have. You're absolutely right, Christopher. The question is, so the tracking account is separate from the budget. It is. If you add a tracking account, it's going to keep that money out of the budget. And I like using tracking accounts for investment accounts, right? If you want to track those balances, you definitely don't have to, but some folks like to, right? Maybe I'm keeping track of my Roth IRA. So account type at the very bottom, I have asset under tracking. And then let's say I have $10,000 in that account. Right. So now I'm tracking that balance. I know where I stand with my Roth IRA, but that money is not available for me to allocate in the budget, right? Keeping it out. All right, Claire, do I go through and create all my targets, but not include my credit card and add that through the account like this? Right. You're not going to create a category for your credit card, Claire, and anyone else using credit cards. Once you add your credit card account, whether it's linked or unlinked, YNAB will automatically create that payment category for you. And then you just have to look at that balance that you brought into YNAB and make a decision. Am I going to pay off that balance this month, or am I going to be paying off that balance over time? Whatever the decision is, you choose an amount of money you want to allocate towards that payment in January, assign the money, and you're good to go. All right, so I see a few other questions here about credit cards. I talked about adding the account and dealing with that balance that you bring in. Let's talk about the new spending. How does YNAB handle new credit card spending? Well, the key, you just want to make sure that the money is already available in the spending category. And as long as that money is available, YNAB will move the money from the spending category to the payment category for you. So let me show you what this looks like. Let's say I'm going to fill up my minivan. So the first thing I do, is I look at my transportation category. I have $150, so more than enough to fill up a tank on the minivan. Now, the important thing to remember, when I'm looking at these category balances, those balances represent actual dollars that are sitting in my checking account right now, today. And so what I'm going to be doing when I spend on the credit card is I'm spending available dollars. So I fill up my tank, gave the money to the gas station. I take that money from my transportation category, and let's say I spent $45. All right. Now, what happens in reality, I didn't actually buy the gas. Visa bought the gas for me, and I made that promise to pay Visa back. So here's how YNAB represents that in the budget. In my transportation category, it takes $45 out. So now moving forward, I have $105 that I can spend on gas. But what does YNAB actually do with that $45 it takes out? Well, since that was money that was spent on a credit card, it moved the money to the payment category automatically for me. So now I have $145 set aside that I can send to Visa at any point. I have the $100 I assigned to myself to deal with that balance I brought into YNAB. And then I have the $45 of new spending. So really with that new spending, all YNAB is doing is changing the job of the dollars. The job was to buy gas. Now the job is to pay back Visa, because again, Visa bought the gas for me and they bought that, $100 of other stuff for me too. So eventually they're going to want their money back. And when they come knocking on my door, hey, Ernie, we want that $145 back. Remember, we bought all that stuff for you, the gas for your minivan. Well, when they come calling, no problem. I already have $145 just sitting there in my payment category. It's ready to go. The only job of that money is to pay back Visa. And so that payment category is going to help me protect those dollars. All right. Is there a way to have fortnightly targets? Rent is paid every 2 weeks. Well, right now, Claire, there's not a great way, but you can make it work. I think eventually we're going to get to the point where the product team releases a biweekly target. But for right now, you're going to use the needed for spending target type. And and the amount that you need every month. So I'm doing needed for spending monthly. I'm going to enter in the amount that I would need to pay that expense 3 times, right? Because when you're biweekly, there's going to be a couple months during the year where you have to pay that expense 3 times. And so let's say my mortgage, I pay $600 every 2 weeks. So when I pay it 3 times, I need $1,800. All right. And I need that by the first of the month. So now the target's going to be calling for $1,800. I'm always going to make sure I assign $1,200, right? Because I'm always going to have those 2 mortgage payments for sure. But then the category, after I assign that $1,200 to cover the 2 payments for the month, it's still going to be yellow, right? It's going to be reminding me, hey, remember, coming up sometime soon, you're going to have to pay that expense 3 times. So let's get you a little bit closer to that total amount that you need. And so maybe I add an extra 100. Then when I spend the $1,200, I make those 2 $600 payments, I'm going to have 100 left over. That 100 is going to carry over into the next month, right? So you kind of see what's happening here. Then I'll add another 1,200 for those 2 payments in the next month, and I'll keep adding a little bit of extra until eventually I'm going to have that full amount that I need to make those 3 payments in that month. So I hope that helps. Yeah, how often do checking balances get updated if we use our debit card for expenditures to the factor into our balance, or is checking money available purely direct deposits? So it depends on the bank, but generally, transactions will start importing 1 to 3 days, within 1 to 3 days. So it does take a little bit of time for the banks to clear those transactions. And then once they're cleared, YNAB has to grab them. And YNAB does have the ability to go to the bank at least 4 times a day. But some banks only let us check once a day or twice a day, right? So, if you do some spending, and like I said, if you want to make sure it's represented in the budget, or you just got paid and you want to make sure it's there right away, add it yourself, and then the imported versions will match up with anything you do or did add yourself. Can I import last year's bank and Amex info into spending? You can, anonymous, but I don't recommend it because it's going to be a lot of work. You're going to have to categorize and approve all of those transactions. And you might gain a little bit of data, but really the most important thing you can do is take a look at the money you have right now and figure out what it needs to do for you moving forward, right? Take that proactive approach. Keeping in mind that maybe if you guess wrong on how much you need for, certain expenses, with Rule 3, you can adjust the budget, right? And you start dialing those in a little bit more as time goes on. Neil's asking a little bit more about investment accounts. Do you have one account for each wrapper? So like a Roth IRA, which includes different funds inside? No, I don't get that specific. I try to keep this as simple as possible. So that is, all the funds that are in that Roth, right? I'm just given the total balance that I currently have. And then to update that balance, because you can't link investment or loan accounts, I'm just going to reconcile it once a month, right? So at the end of every month, I log into my investments. I see what that balance is. I copy it. I hit the reconcile button. Is this your account balance? I say no. And then I paste what that balance is as of that day. So I don't know. Everything's going down, right? So let's say it's now $9,500. There, YNAB adjusts that balance. And so now moving into that new month, I have that updated balance. And then that feeds into my net worth report there. Do you have a transactions webinar session? Yes, we do, Debbie. Actually, that's perfect timing because the very next one I'm teaching is called Maintaining Your Budget. Now that you've got a budget all set up, how do you actually use it to reach your financial goals? And so we're going to be talking about habits. We're going to be talking about adjusting the budget. We're going to talk a lot about transactions and how to enter transactions. We're also going to talk about reconciling. So I put a link in the chat window. And this one, unfortunately, YouTube friends, that is not going to be on YouTube Live, but it will be on Zoom. So if you want to join me there, I put a link in the chat window. What do you do with emergency fund money sitting in a savings account? I have a couple months worth of rainy day savings apart from investments set aside and don't know what to assign it to. So Juba, I would create an emergency funds category and just assign the money right there. Let's do that in YNAB. All right, we're good on time here. Unlinked, you can link your savings if you want. I wish I could link in this live, just don't have a good way to do that. All right, so I'm going to call this, actually, let's call this emergency fund. That's the name of my actual account there at the bank. I'm choosing that savings account type, $3,000. So those savings accounts, they're going to be working just like a checking. YNAB's going to take the money you have, that cash, and it's going to feed it into the budget. So $3,000 in my emergency fund, $3,000 in ready to assign. So what is the purpose of that money? Because this now kicks off Rule 1. Now, I don't want to spend that money on groceries. Don't want to spend it on the mortgage. It's for emergencies. So I'm going to create an emergency category. Oh, that's nice. YNAB autocorrected that spelling error for me. And I'm going to assign that $3,000 to the category. And that process of assigning money to a category, that is how you save in YNAB. And that is how I know that $3,000 is not going to be used on anything else, right? It's not going to be used on groceries. It's not going to be used for vehicle registration. It's going to sit in my emergency fund category until I have to spend from that category or I decide to move it somewhere else. And just so you can see this, I move forward to February. That $3,000 is sitting right there, right? So again, the budget, that category, it's going to help me protect and those dollars. And now the nice thing is all of the cash that I have to my name, so all of the money in my checking, all of the money in my emergency fund, I have a job for all those dollars, right? I know exactly what every penny needs to do for me. And at a quick glance, I can see how I've allocated all of those dollars, including my savings. And so for you folks that have multiple savings accounts, add them all. Figure out exactly what each account, what the money in that account needs to do, assign it accordingly, and you've got yourself a plan. Christina, you had the same question over here on Zoom. How are we feeling after that demo right there? Does that make sense? Yeah, let me know if there's any follow-up there. How do you update the budget after you submit a credit card payment to Visa? Let's do that. I've got $145 sitting in my payment category. So I'm actually going to log into my Visa and make that payment there. I always want to point that out. Even if you've linked your accounts, you still need to log in with your credit card company, make the payment there. After you've made the actual payment in the real world, now you can record that in YNAB. And so I like starting in the credit card account because we have this record payment button right here. So you can just click that. YNAB will pull in the amount that you have available for that payment as an inflow. So I sent the full amount that was available. I sent that to Visa. So $145. And now the key with credit card payments is you want to set them up as a transfer. So in my payee field, I'm going to select the account that the payment came from. So right here's my payments and transfers list. That payment came from my checking account. As soon as I select that account, that disables my category, right? And that's exactly what I want to happen because a credit card payment is not new spending. It's just paying back the people who bought the stuff for you. So it's a movement of money from one account, my checking, to the other account, my Visa. Save, and there we go. So now my account balances are updated. My balance with Visa is $0. I have $145 less in my checking. And here's the other side. So in my checking account, it's a payment to the Visa, no category, $145 outflow. And then that transfer, that's pulling the money from my actual payment category. So now I know where I stand with that future payment. In this case, it doesn't matter because I got everything down to $0. Abigail asks, can we do the record payment button on the mobile app? Yes, you can. I'm pretty sure. Let's do this. All right, I'm going to delete that payment because it might have already synced over. All right, hop over to the mobile app. And I apologize, folks. There's just been so many great questions that have come through, and we haven't had the time. Marie and I haven't had the time to answer all of them. So I do apologize, but you can always reach out to our support team. They'd love to help at YNAB.com. Okay. So I'm in the web app or mobile app. There we go. So now where's my Visa? There's the payment. I think what you need to do is long press on that available amount. There we go. So I long pressed right there on the amount that I have available. Now I can select record payment. There it is. So it's an inflow, right? So the money coming into the account. So that payee is now I'm going to select the account that the money came from. So in the mobile app, you're going to look for the T's because all your payees are alphabetized. So transfer, checking. There we go. No category. And that money, that 145 is going into my Visa. So that positive amount is going to be reducing that balance. Now I can hit save. There we go. Money leaves the payment category. And then on the account side, my balances are updated. $0 balance there, $145 less in checking. All right. If I use my credit card to pay one of my bills, how do I get it to move to the credit card payment category like you did? Diana, as long as that money is available, meaning as long as you have money in the category, right? It's showing as available, YNAB will automatically move that money to the payment category for you, right? So let's do one more example here. Internet, I have 75 available. And so now I paid the internet bill. And I can either enter that spending myself, or I can import that transaction once it comes through. Either way, YNAB will automatically take that 75 and move it to the payment category. So we go internet company. I'm taking that money from the internet category. That's key. 75. There we go. So on the budget side, internet category, there's the 75 I put in. There's the 75 that came out. YNAB took that 75 that came out and it added it to my payment category, right? So it changed the job of that $75. All right, friends. Actually, I'm not teaching on credit cards tonight, but I'll put a link to our YouTube video. All right, Brian, you're talking about interest over on credit cards. Here's the YouTube video for credit cards and debt. And I don't know if there's chapters in that video, but you can kind of scroll ahead a little bit and we talk about covering interest in those videos. And so for Zoom folks, I put that right there in the chat window. All right, folks, that's all the time that I have. I got to sign off and get ready for the next one coming up here at the top of the hour, maintaining your budget. So maybe I'll see you in 5 minutes from now. But if I don't, have yourself a fantastic week. Best of luck with budgeting and take care. See you later.